So what we're doing today is putting our heads together. So the first thing we did was we went ahead and put our valves in. We went ahead and dipped them in a little bit of oil, slide them up, slid them in through a few times just to make sure that's all well lubricated. Then we put these little seat plates down with the new seals on top of them. We just kind of put them on and gave them a little tap with a rubber hammer. Nothing too crazy, okay? And make sure they're going on straight, because otherwise they like to bind up and be a problem. But just tap them on, it's not that hard to do. Make sure your valves are all the way up. Then we'll take our spring, lay it over the valve. We use this handy dandy little spring compressor tool here to push the springs down and put our keepers on, and then we'll let them up and we'll start the next pair. And we'll show you that here in a second. Basically, we got to work on getting these little keepers into the grooves. These valves have two little grooves at the very top of them. Probably hard to see for you guys, but there's two little grooves and those keepers will fall into those. So we're just going to try to set them in their homes. And I know I got some sausage fingers in the way, but bear with me. Now I'm just going to kind of slowly turn this out and let that push those. Oop, nope, that one popped out. Basically the spring will just push them kind of into where they've got to go. Not a big deal, and it's nothing to be like freaked out about. I know people, when they start compressing springs, they're worried it's going to just explode and shoot them in the face, but it's pretty controlled. It's nothing to be too worried about. I'm just going to let that up nice and easy. And I'm just kind of holding these keepers with my fingers because they want to move. The other side's doing fine, so I'm not worried too much about that. I might have to move my spring around just a bit, but all in all, I'm just going to bring her up. Now that we're kind of getting in there, hopefully I can speed up and they'll fall into place. Perfect. I wouldn't recommend doing this with an impact. It's really hard on your bolt. It's just not a good idea. So now the retainers are holding the springs. I like to just go ahead and give them a little whack just to really seat those keepers in. And I'll just take and pull this guy off. So we'll do that there. There, and we'll just take this whole situation, slide over a notch. So we're going to start fresh on these ones. So what we're going to come over here and do is grab our springs. We got dual springs. We're just going to slide them over like this. Now the big thing to remember, if you look at your warning tag right here, is not to put dual springs over your stock one-piece seals. The inner spring will catch. It doesn't work out. I have done it before. I have, and it worked, and I haven't had any issues, but the cam was pretty small. So I'm sure with something with any real lift, when it's compressing it down, you'll have some problems. I just wouldn't recommend it. All right, so we got to put our new bolts down in here. We'll hold down our spring compressor, and they just go into these two holes that would originally hold the rocker rail. I'm not worried about getting them tight. I just put them down there, and then I'll come and take a hat here. Now these hats have these step downs in them. You can see, and they're meant to step into each spring. We have one spring, two spring, so that piece goes down, and you'll have this nice rounded top. So we're going to take those and put them in there just like that. Kada bam, kada bam. Washer, nut. And it's kind of a slow process. I mean, this isn't a 5-minute thing. It takes you know, you might have an hour, 2 hours into this, depending on how quickly you know, you get used to it and just kind of roll along. Sometimes they'll fight you, sometimes they'll go real easy. But either way, it'll take some time. Just setting the tool up over and over again. Like I said, I don't like to tighten these down with the impact because it puts a ton of stress on that bolt, and a lot of times you'll just strip it out, it'll cross thread, it'll have problems. There's a lot of tension on it, and so taking it easy on those threads is a good plan. And I'm just gonna go down, you don't have to put the springs down all the way. That's overkill. I go down till I can see that keeper groove real clearly. I'll grab a couple keepers, and these keepers, so we have the inside grooves that drop onto the valve and hold it on. And these are also tapered. You can see there's a thick edge on top and a thin edge on the bottom. And that thin edge is gonna go down so it tapers up. So we're gonna try to set those in their little grooves, just like that. And it's real delicate, they like to move. It helps having a little bit of oil on your valve. That's another reason why I put oil on them before I slide them up in there, is it'll kind of suction cup them on. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but it helps. Grab two more here for the other valve. I'm gonna do the same thing, tapered end down, fat end up. Try to get out of the way so you guys can see this, but and hopefully they'll just stay in their spots for me, but they're not really wanting to. It's pretty average. It's just something you got to deal with. I'm just going to try to let these up a little bit, and hopefully, as long as these keepers are loose, they'll push them right up where they need to be, maybe. Let me... God dang it. These ones aren't having it. Sometimes if they fall down, they'll get bound, so I don't get too crazy, but we'll just try slowly bringing it up. I don't think that one's gonna want to go home, but those ones are kind of being held, so we're just gonna move him up with our finger. Kind of like kids, you know? The ones that are self-sustaining, you just let them do what they do because they're not gonna kill themselves. But the ones that are being problem child, you direct your attention over there and just let the other ones be, the less risk. Go around. We'll give those a little tappity tap. Just a little jostle. You don't have to do it. I like to do it because I don't like to get shot in the face by a fucking spring. Excuse my French. But it's never happened, but I can assume it would. They just one of the things. Like, you're literally relying on something to bind up to hold a spring in. So, trust issues. I got them. We'll set her up one more time. This is real live action. Okay, we're not fast forwarding through this. Damn the time lapse. Damn it. And they got other spring compressors you can use. I don't know, we just got this one because it's cheap and it works really well. So we'll drop them on there. I want to make sure these guys are all the way up. Just helps. Step side down. Step side down. I'm going to use that to kind of center my valves in the middle of them things. Obviously, if they're laying crooked, it'll push down and hit your valve stem, and it'll just push your valve stem down. So it's not, you know, line them up if they don't want to lay straight. This one's being a bit of a problem child. It's interesting. I'm wondering if that valve isn't bent because it's pointing up this way. I'm gonna tip this up and check on that real quick. The curiosity is overwhelming. You know what, let me go with this guy and I'll just push him through. look bent. Try it again. Give her a little dollop of the oils. Pop her in there. Once it's still off to the left for some reason. I can't really push that spring in anymore. There we go.